and welcome to Gierok Farms. Today it's a beautiful spring day. Looks like George is getting ready to go out to check the fences. Thanks for watching, and we'll see what the day brings.
Over there, I was looking for that. Because last summer, well, we had some windstorms, but I come here and there's a tree on the fence blocking the cow path where the cows kind of walk up here. So I was forced to come here one early morning when it was really hot, so I tried to do it in the morning and tried to tie this together, but there was berry bushes and everything growing here. But it must have fell down between the wood and then I didn't see it. But I got several of these. But I knew I had this nice orange one, and I knew I left it by a fence somewhere. So you come across it. Ain't too many things lost on this farm that we haven't found again. Well, that's that mystery. So what we're doing here, I was here a few days ago, cut up the brush and stuff, and it started raining. I just had to quit, but that we're gonna maybe burn after everything gets green sometime later in the summer. But birch, we're just gonna load all these blocks up here because it's very, very steep here. The camera don't show it, it's very steep. I mean, we have one block roll way down by the road, but we gotta go get him too. Yeah, so these are birch trees that are where the tops are drying up, you know, they come of age, and I don't know. They're gonna eventually tip over on the fence because I still had corn here. I couldn't do it the way I wanted to do it, but now we're going to plant corn here in the spring again, so we're going to get this cleaned up. This is one of the higher spots of our farm. This is on kind of the, I suppose you'd call it the southeast side. And you see the way all the rolling hills, and you can see some farms in there. This would be a very good vision of what the north end of our county is, called the driftless region. So a lot of hills and valleys, and the woods is usually in the steeper areas where you can't farm because they're too steep. And if they weren't able to be grazed because they're not near the barns, they end up being woods, and then the fields are more valuable and the tops and that. So the green down here still belongs to our farm, and then where the brown or the tillage is, that's already a neighboring property there. So, and I found a shed a couple days ago. Just picking up brush. Actually tripped on it. I don't shed hunt. Last year, or maybe a year before, Mason went shed hunting, and I asked him if he'd come with me, help me with some brush project, and he's gonna go shed hunt with his friends. And I came home with it. It was like from off a 10-point. It was a lot bigger. This is just a simple 8-point, but that was a really nice shed. And I was teasing him how I got some work done and still found the shed, you know, but kind of looking for a needle in a haystack. Some people use dogs to sniff them out. I don't know. It'll stop somewhere. Usually trying to stop something like that, you just end up getting yourself hurt. Now typically what happens with a log rolling away like that for us is it's a little wider on one end, and it'll eventually just turn and go to the side, but that one must have been pretty even. So I have to drive over there and pick them up later. If we just forget about it, it'll be in the hay vine or disc vine, you know. And right in the middle of the field like that, you wouldn't suspect that. Okay, so I'm going to go up and cut that up. We're not going to pick that up. I'm just going to throw that together up there. We'll pick that up in the fall, because to get up there, it's probably a little slippery up there yet. No. And then we're going to refix this. I just did this temporarily last summer, but this is a fence we worked on 2 years ago. Quite a project where we had John kind of grub all the stumps. There was a lot of small stumps, just that fine brush. We've been doing an awful lot of that debrushing the fences between the pastures and the hay fields and some of the line fences that we have to work on regularly. And it's what makes fencing not so fun when it's usually going to be, the leaves are on, it'll be hot, the cattle are grazing already. You have to fix it now. You can't, tree on it or something. And then you got all this fine brush in there. And you're almost forced to get the fine brush out before you can do something with the wires, unless it's a real minor fix. But if it's anything major, and that's what makes fencing just nasty. So we'll get some long grass and some finer brush, weeds growing up. And I wod say this line, just stretching here, is probably almost a half a mile from one end of the farm all the way to the front end. I would bet it's 4 or 5 different times, about every 3rd to 4th year, we cut the fine brush out of the fence. If you let it get too tall, then it gets more difficult. It's more, you're already getting firewood out of it, and it's shading the fields. And you don't realize it, but the roots from that stuff stretch into the field and rob the nutrients out of the field way more than I think people realize. So you got that, and then you got the shade from it, and then the aggravation of it. And then, of course, even from a distance looking for your cattle, all that fine brush, it's so much cover. From back in the 80s, and we started here in the 90s, and it probably was about the last 15 years especially. There's so much invasive species, buckthorn and all sorts of that thornage and this type of stuff that doesn't make any kind of saw log or any value other than underbrush cover for the wildlife. They don't really eat it. It's just a place to go hide. So at the end of the day, when you start talking about making something great for the wildlife, it seems like when you clear out an area, you'll see them there more because there's something they can eat, and they just use the underbrush for hiding. Not so. Some of them are pretty solid, and it's just got to get cleaned up whether you throw it in the boiler or whether you put it on a brush pile. It's going to be handled either way. 2 out of 5. 3 out of 5. But typically, even a tree, like it must have broke off way up higher and come falling pretty hard like a sledgehammer. And then it will break them all. Usually, if it's still attached at the stump, it doesn't fall quite as hard. Then you might have a top wire or something. But the bigger issue is, and her dad used to tell me this all the time, is you got to make sure that if the cattle can't walk along the fence, they're going to try to get around the tree. And if the fence ain't very good, they're going to go through. And then they're in the corn, and then, that's going to be, you want to get that started. Last one. Very quiet out here. Hardly any wind. It's some wire that we took out of a different fence we're using for the splice. from that. Sometimes when we put new fence in or replace a stretch, there might be some pieces in there that were new. I'd like to think farmers are probably some of the most conservative people out there, because you can get creative with just about anything and reuse it somewhere. This one, the bottom one's going to be good. If you make them too tight, all it does is it eventually makes all your posts lean to the downhill side, which eventually you'll be tightening again or straightening up the posts. It's a given. We'll be making more repairs in the future. It's never ending, but it's simple. It don't cost us much. It's just putting in some time. Newer staples, they don't, it's kind of a one-time thing. Seems like the old ones, you could bend them, you could probably use them 3-4 times. They're just a little thicker. See, like this one is thicker, probably just a better steel. Back when a Ford and Chevy would last like it should. All right, that's good. So this one we got to tighten up. This tool I wish I had when we started farming. I like it. It's what is that? Texas Fence Fixer. Texas.
And where'd you get that from?
A YouTuber sent it to. Well, a YouTube fan of ours several years ago now. It's about $100 tool because we kind of looked it up afterwards. And when I first seen it, it was a little bit confusing on how this thing works. So, but I did stumble across a fencing video where somebody was demonstrating, because it didn't really come with any instructions or anything, which I imagine it would have fumbled around long enough, would have figured it out. But here's kind of the key to the whole thing. It's being able to get that kink in there and then wrapping it. And you're just using your handles of your regular fence pincher. I like it because there's hundreds of places this could be used without cutting the wire. Now we used, again, another used piece of wire that was a little bit not so pretty, which again, we're not wasting it. It works. Otherwise that wire like that, we just have to throw away those short pieces. But I would throw several in the four-wheeler, so I have them with, because we're making repairs. We see them, we have everything with. It takes maybe 2 minutes to fix it, and then you go, and you don't have to think about going back there another day or something. Like if there's a tree on the fence, sometimes just a limb on it, and it would kink the top wire real bad. What happens is it stretches it. I've had it even where I think the deer might have hooked it and got tangled up briefly in it. Anyway, you use this to kind of get everything snug again, and you're good. Okay. Okay, we're all picked up. So thanks for watching. We're done here, but we're not done. We still got cattle to look after, and we got to go pick up them 2 blocks of wood.